You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 40. This podcast is dedicated to Circus. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. Hey friends, fans, and enemies, I'm Shannon McKenna, and I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. If you want to help out the podcast, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete. Again, patreon.com/theartistathlete. My guest today is Flo Zumkehr. Florian, or Flo, is from Basel, Switzerland. He started circus as a child before attending the Berlin Circus School, where his primary discipline was hand balancing. He debuted the hand balancing act in Soap at the Chameleon, then performed in the German cabaret circuit before moving to Montreal, where he found work with Cirque Eloize in ID and with the Seven Fingers in their show Traces. He moved back to Berlin to become a street performer and founded his company Analog, whose show Finale is playing at the Adelaide Fringe right now. Here's my interview with Flo Zumkehr. Welcome to the podcast, Florian.
Thank you for having me.
Can you say a little bit in your own words, like who you are?
Oh, it's already recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I was like, I thought you were
I
gonna have.
guess I should have warned you.
Hello, I'm Florian Zumkehr.
Hi, Florian.
I'm a circus acrobat. I grew up in Basel, Switzerland. And since I'm 15 years old, I live in Berlin mostly. Or I'm based in Berlin. And yeah, I've done a lot of different jobs in circus, and now I'm 30 years old.
Did you start circus in Switzerland?
Yes, I started circus in a youth circus or kids circus with 7 years old.
Wow. What's that like? Cause they don't have many like youth circuses like that in the US. Can you talk a little bit about what those are?
I mean, we have different ones in Europe, all over Europe, and all of them are kind of similar, but have their own kind of way how they handle things. So you have some that are like a vacation program. When you have no school for 2 weeks, you go in a little camp, you train, and then at the end of the vacation, you have a little performance. The one where I have been is a little bit different. Once you're in the circus, you train the entire school year, always on Mondays or Fridays in the evening. You have like a little class, and you kind of prepare your show for an entire year. And then when it's summer vacation, the 6 weeks of summer vacation, in the last 3 weeks, we always build up the tent at the same spot. It's like this circus is not touring. Mm-hmm. So in this neighborhood, we build up the tent. We finalize the program, and then for the last 14 days of the vacation, you perform the show that you have been working on for 1 year with your friends.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wait, are your parents in circus? What do they do?
My parents are not in circus at all. My mom, she is a kindergarten teacher, and my dad, he's a photographer.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool. So you were just like, I want to do this. And you started?
Yeah, actually, so since this little kid circus is happening once a year, you also, when you're not part of it, you're definitely, as a kid, gonna go watch it one time in your life, like in summer, you know. And yeah, when I was 7, I told my parents I would like to be part of that. And they were quite excited about it because it's something physical, and I was always a very active kid. Mm-hmm. But they were happy that I was not going for soccer or gymnastics, something where also a creative aspect is part of the work and not just you know, in gymnastics, it's very like there's only one way to do it right. And then you get, you even get judged on it. And that can be very hard, I think, for kids. So my parents were really, excited about the youth circus idea because you can be active. You learn all the things that you also learn in gymnastics. But you have this creative aspects with your friends where you're just like, oh, so maybe we can be monkeys in the act. Like, let's have monkey costumes, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what was your discipline back then?
Oh, actually, my very first discipline was trapeze.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did
Oh,
trapeze.
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really funny. This used to be like the cool thing when I was in Kids Circus, it was like, yeah, you can do the trapeze act because it's like, it was kind of, I would say the trapeze was rigged kind of high for a youth circus. Yeah. So like the cool kids would be on the trapeze and it was very funny. I have like one video actually still where I'm like, I was an alien and I'm like in a green unitard, like a 7-year-old little alien.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very funny actually.
Cool. And then, so you came to Berlin when you were 15? Mm-hmm. Did you come for Circus?
Yes, I came for the Circus school in Berlin. Okay. We had this program in Basel in the regular school that was called, I don't know how to translate, but it was like a program where we're supposed to, research what you want to become, like what kind of profession you want to have when you're done with school. And the school helped you research what would be the path you have to take, which kind of education, which kind of, school, grades you have to become this. And I always knew I want to do circus, or at least if I want to try and go for it, I need to go for it as soon as possible. Yeah. And so I looked up, what could be the possibilities in this school program. And there were like maybe 4 circus schools in Europe that were showing up. Whoa. Like, oh yeah, you could go, if you want to become a circus performer, you can go to this school. And, then pretty quickly, for me, the only option, if I would do this, was Berlin. I would say not because it's the best circus school in Europe, but it is the only one, where you speak German. And since I grew up in the German speaking part of Switzerland, I was like, okay, if I move with 15 away from my parents' house, I want to at least speak still German. Okay. And so that's kind of why I decided, to go to Berlin.
Yeah, I was going to ask why you didn't go to France.
Yeah, because I had French in school, but,
but you don't speak
no,
French.
I'm not very good.
Cool. What was your time at the school like? I don't think like the Berlin Circus School isn't very well known.
No, not really.
Outside of Germany.
I mean, it's definitely not as well known as all the French or like Montreal school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people are aware that there is a school, but people don't really know how the school works. So what was your question?
It wasn't really a question. It was just kind of like an observation that like, I think, what's the curriculum like, I guess is my question when you were there.
So when I was there, the school program was 4 years.
Okay.
It's divided by 2 years, with still regular school where you graduate. And then the last 2 years are the actual, it's a real education, like a profession education. You can't study it. We don't study circus. Mm-hmm. So you don't get your bachelor or something. Okay. But it's like when you do an education to become a carpenter. Oh,
in English, I think they say vocational school.
Okay. So it's like a vocational
You learn like a trade or like a, Yeah, that makes
sense. So it's like this.
Cool.
And when I was there, now you can actually I think you can already start at the 5th grade.
Oh, wow.
But I started at the 9th grade and I did 4 years, which was 1 year of, general education in circus, which is juggling, handstands, tight wire, trapeze or like general aerial skills. And what is the fifth one? There were fifth. Oh, I don't know how many.
Juggling, tight wire, trapeze, handstands. Do you have any like tumbling training or like acrobatics?
Tumbling. Yeah, acrobatics.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then in the second year, you have to find your specialization.
Okay.
Which can be also Roussier all of a sudden.
Oh, okay.
Then it can be anything. So it's like you have the basics, and from there you choose whatever you want to do. And so you just said like actually quite a lot of hand balancer get out of the school because, you know, it's part of the basic program. And usually, right, you do what you're good at or you have fun doing what you're good at. So the ones who are already quite good in handstands in the basic program, they usually continue doing handstands. Also because the school teaches you, also tries to always tell you how it's better, like, oh, with this you can get a job.
Yeah.
And so like handstand is very easy to work anywhere with if you don't have a big prop, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Or you don't need to like rig something or.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so.
anyway.
I mean, the school, to come back to the general thing or history about the school, it used to be a East German school. It was a state school from the DDR, so like the Soviet school. And when you would graduate there, you would always have a job because it was communist, right? So you would be part of the state circus. You would get this license and you would always work. And so they would actually educate huge acts, like with big troupe acts, you know, like teeterboard acts with like 15 people.
Yeah,
and
like a bankin troupe or something like this.
Exactly, stuff like this. And then when Germany got united again, the school kind of still existed, and still is a state school. But what happened is people got all of a sudden scared that, you know, they can be unemployed in the east part. So no one really wanted to become a circus performer anymore. So when the wall came down in 89, for I would say a good 10 years, the school had really problems with finding people to actually educate because no one wanted to come to the school. And they also had to kind of restructure how to teach because, now we have to actually teach solo acts. We can't make big groups with the people who come,
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I would say, Berlin and the circus school had this little, you know, sleep in the 90s where like no one really went there because it wasn't interesting. Or just because people thought you can't do anything here anymore. And then, so I would say that in the 90s, not a lot of people applied for the school. So because it's a state program, they had to still take a certain amount of people that the school doesn't shut down.
Okay.
So they just educated whoever came to apply. So the level, I would say, dropped quite dramatically in the 90s after it was a state school. And now they're recuperating from it, like quite well. Like more and more, like better artists are graduating, and then people hear like, "Oh, what? You're from the Berlin school?" So like more people go to the Berlin school, and now, it's quite good people who are actually graduating from there now.
That's such a great history and so interesting. It also kind of speaks to like the trajectory of new circus or like this contemporary circus where you don't train up like a family or a troupe anymore. You train as an individual and then kind of go around in variete or in different things.
Yeah, like I would say, when it was still East German school, it was super focused on circus, like real circus, big acts, and like even juggling acts with like, you know, 8 people, like big passing stuff. And now I think they really restructured in educating acts for cabarets and varieties in Germany. I wouldn't say it's it's the top school for contemporary circus and conceptual shows.
Sure.
But actually, you can think what you want about the show, but actually a lot of acts that graduate there work in German cabarets after.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah. So what did you study when you graduated? Your act was?
I studied handstand. That was my main discipline because I just thought, okay, it's a genre that really requires a lot of time and discipline and effort. And I just thought I'm not going to get as much time as I have now again. So I do this now.
Yeah. Nice.
And then all the disciplines that I also do now, I've learned after school.
Oh, interesting. So you graduated from the school and then you worked in Germany.
Yes.
Okay.
I was still in school. And for the last 5 months of the school, I already got hired from Chameleon to do soap.
Yeah.
I'm the original handstand cast of soap. And so I did the last 5 months of my school. I did already perform in Chameleon, which was a nightmare.
Oh, really?
Well, because it was an amazing experience. Yeah. I couldn't wish for a better kickoff for my career. But I had 5 months no day off because I would do double shows on Saturday and on Sunday one show, which was the weekend for the school. And then when it was Monday off in the shows, I would go to the school. Yeah. Ugh. So I did that for 5 months and the training in the school was at 8 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
So I did this. After the school, I continued with soap because it played for quite a while in Chameleon. I did 13 months there. Okay. Then I did all the GOPs right after, with the Marcus Pops show. It was called Made in Germany, the show. Okay.
It's a good title, I guess.
Yeah, and actually the soap was also directed from Marcus Pops. Yeah. And so after that, I was super tired. And I realized wow, I come from kids circus and I had this little first crisis, I would say, in my career after all of a sudden working for 2 years nonstop. I was like, oh, I did circus because I really like to do circus, but I had this first moment of realizing why I also do it, not just apart from the movement and the training. It's I also really do it because of with who I do it. Because in kids circus, it was you do it with your friends and you share your ideas that you have. And all of a sudden it wasn't that anymore. It was you're in a little town in Germany and you do what the director told you to do. And you don't know the people before that you are going to work with. And so I was really, this is weird. And also I want to do more on stage than just 5 minutes of my handstand act. So through those 2 contracts, I already got to know some Montreal circus people Marjorie Nantel and Antoine Carabinier. And so I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go see Montreal. I have a little bit of money. I need some time off. I'm going to book myself 1 month Montreal with no plan. Nice. So I did that. I went there. I slept at some friend's house and, I was just training. I actually wrote Samuel Tetreault from the Seven Fingers if he can give me some handstand classes because I thought it would be good to, get better and train with someone who's really good. So I did this, he taught me, and so I got to know the Seven Fingers a little bit, and I went to some Montreal circus parties, and then at one point I heard you can train at Cirque Eloize for $5 a day. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this also. Yeah, I trained there for $5, and Christopher from Cirque Eloize, he came and he was like, oh, who are you? I'm Flo, I'm from Switzerland. We live in Berlin. I was like, oh, cool. We're doing this new show. Do you want to do a casting for Cirque Eloize? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? When? He's like, well, in 10 minutes. I'm like, okay.
That's great.
In this 10 minutes, he went upstairs, he went to get a camera, and he came back down with Shannon McKenna, the director of Cirque Eloize. And so they were like, can you show us your handstand act? I'm like, okay. So, but my handstand act back then was a chair act with a straitjacket. And I was like, oh shit, I don't have my straitjacket here. I don't have my music here. I was like, yeah, sure, I can do my act, but I don't have my music here and I don't have the straitjacket here and it's a straitjacket act. And they were like, no, it's fine. Just do it anyway. We know now that it is a straitjacket act. And so I was like, okay, Flo, this is it. Like you're either gonna go for it full on.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's just pretend like you do the act with the music and straitjacket and everything. So I went like all in and like did everything. And they asked me some other things and I also play guitar and blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, so could you work? Could you be part of the new show? ID, creation starts in 3 weeks.
Perfect. Done.
So I was like,
that's awesome.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But I fly back to Berlin next week. I can't fly back and I had the offer to do soap again.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm not going to cancel soap if you guys don't give me something that I have in my hand.
Yeah.
So they prepared a contract in 1 week. So I wasn't flying back home to Berlin with nothing in my hands.
Smart. That's really smart.
And then I signed up to do Cirque Eloize ID. So 3 weeks later, I flew back to Montreal and did the creation for ID.
Did you find it very different to create, like, with someone like Marcus or a director in, I don't even know if this is a thing, but like a German style of putting together a show versus like with Eloize?
In general, yes.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, between Marcus Pabst and Shannon McKenna,
yeah,
it was quite similar.
Really?
Yes, because I think it was the first show that Shannon was directing. I don't think he was directing before. So it was quite similar in the way of having an overall idea and picture and knowing where he wants to go and being very open to suggestions, which can be tricky for some people because some people just really want, I mean, I guess the job is called director, so they want directions.
Yeah.
where to go. But I find it also sometimes super nice to work with people like this because you have all the freedom and you can really suggest what you like to do. And then if you convince them that this is the right thing, then you will do in the show something that you like, even though it's not a show that you created from scratch. You know what I mean?
But it's more like collaborative.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yeah. But it's totally a collaborative work. It's like a ping pong. But yeah, it really depends on the workflow. I think some people get stuck and say like, but why isn't he telling me how to do it? Or there is really two sides of this kind of creative work, I think. I've never had a problem with this. I kind of like just throwing out ideas and then.
And it would give you more time on stage too, right?
Exactly.
If you could start suggesting things and be like, I could push a table on here and do a backflip and then go off.
Yeah.
Nice. So you did ID?
I did ID. We went to Korea and then after Korea there was, actually I did ID with, Valerie Benoit and Mason Ames. And they already had some new offers after Korea. And they got asked from the Seven Fingers to be in the third cast of Traces. And since Traces is a very personal show, and you have to really, and it's a small cast, and you have to really gang up, Gypsy Snyder asked them if they know anyone that they could think of that they would be happy to do the show with. And so we were in Korea for 3 months, and I was super duper lucky to get along with them good, and they suggested me. So they were like, well, actually, Flo, like, why not with him?
Yeah, cool.
And so Gypsy Snyder, who knew me a little bit from some parties back in Montreal.
Yeah.
I don't think she was really convinced. Actually, I don't think any of the Seven Fingers were really convinced, but they were just, I think, Sam Tetro once told me that, he was the one who was really giving a good word for me.
Oh yeah, like vouching for you.
Vouching for me.
Yeah.
I think the other ones were all a bit skeptic.
Why?
Well, I can understand. I was just this random little German guy who does a little bit of handstand. This was like the only
question that like I had prepared or like that I was like thinking of as I was walking here was like, I meet when I'm in Germany and when I go see the Palazzos or GOPs or like, and maybe it's because I'm an English speaker from North America, but most of the people I meet and know are people who have come from Montreal or Canada or somewhere, and they do the German variety. I don't meet a lot of people who go the other way, who are Germans or who like come from Europe and then go work for the Fingers or go work for, I mean, I'm sure they're out there. Lots of French people. I just don't know.
Yeah, there aren't that many, I would say. Especially not a lot of Germans or from the German school. Which is actually something super funny. When to jump back a bit, when I went to Montreal the first time, and I was so tired of doing the GOPs and everything, I would go there and get to know all these like circus people who would just graduate or about to graduate. And they would be older than me because you graduate the Montreal school later than in Germany. Like I think I was 20 or 21 when I went to Montreal, and I already worked for 2 years, you know?
Yeah.
And then they were all like, oh, that's so cool. You work in the GOP. Like, how can I get into the GOP? But I was all on this train, like, I want to come work here. Like,
that's so funny.
So that was very funny to like see like, oh wow, like the grass is always greener on the other side, I guess. Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
But so Sam vouched for you.
Yes, exactly. Sam vouched for me, and I got the job for Traces.
Lovely show.
Which was, to be honest, and still is till today, one of the greatest things I've ever done in my career so far, because I have to also jump back big time now, actually. So the Chameleon Theater in Berlin is actually, my second living room because, like, you know, I started my first career there, and not just that, once I was in circus school, or when I was in circus school, I've had these moments where I was in Berlin, you know, 16, 17 years old, and thinking, why am I doing this? And it's not going to be like kids circus. I don't want to go in a traditional circus. Like, what am I doing? You know, when you have these crises. And then I went to the Chameleon and I watched a show, which was Traces, the original cast.
Oh, wow.
In 2006. And it just blew me away. It was my game changer in school. It was like, okay, I know why I pushed through this school now. Like, if I can do something one day, something similar like this, I'll be happy. Like, so Traces was really like, I think not just for me, back then for like a lot of people, it was such a huge inspiration. And to then 7 years later sign a contract to do exactly this show was like beyond a dream come true for me. And yeah, so I am and will always be super duper grateful to the Seven Fingers that they trusted me to do this, and to all the experiences that they gave me through that. It was really amazing.
I want to make sure we have time to talk about Analog and your show, because now that I hear that, it's like, and then seeing Analog, it kind of makes sense how it got a bit informed by the Traces.
Yeah.
That connection that you all have on stage. But am I skipping anything in between? You did Traces?
I did Traces for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I did Pippin on Broadway for like 4 months after the original cast, just for a short period of time, which also was an amazing experience and was also through Gypsy Snyder. And then started the time where I slowly moved back my base to Berlin. And I founded the street show company with Ethan Law in 2013, which was called Analog. We did a little Kickstarter, and we started off with just like, okay, let's learn how to do a street show. This was our approach. Like,
that's so crazy coming from like these theaters and these like big, you know, I mean, really highly funded shows and companies. What made you want to go to street shows?
I guess a big motor that I always have in circus is, how can I become a better performer? Not just how can I become a better acrobat, because the answer to that is usually train. Yeah, I was just like, okay, I've done the cabaret where you have like 5 minutes chance to entertain the people. I've done the concept shows where you have 90 minutes to entertain the people, but they actually all come and they pay a ticket and they want to see your show. So it's quite easy to get their attention because, you know, that's what they want.
Yeah. They even make you turn off your cell phone.
They give you your attention, and then you just have to do what you always do. And, or actually, again, to bring this back to the directors, it's like sometimes the attention is there, but then it's maybe not up to you if you will lose them or not, because the way the show is directed or the arc of the show, like, you know, so I was just interested in like, oh, can I also, I don't want to direct the show, but can I be the one who makes the decisions, and can I see if I would last, if I could just do a show where people want to actually watch and not walk away. And so I think, to be honest, in a performance question, street show is the highest skilled one. How to like make a person stand in the middle of the street who wasn't planning on seeing a show, but then they stay. And not just that, on top of that, they give you money at the end, which they weren't planning at all. It was really fascinating to me. So I wanted to learn this. So I founded the company with Ethan. We did a street show. We did a whole summer of just doing street shows. And then in that summer,
how did it go?
It went super well.
Oh, really?
It went not really well in the beginning, of course, but
this is what I hear from all street performers. There's like this like
it's
time
like
of
you
suck.
don't want to do your very, very ever first street show. It's the worst.
Well, I want to hear about it.
You just
like, yeah. How do you get a crowd?
So you prepare your street show, right? Yeah. You like in your head, you practice it, and then you have your gear and you pack it up, and then you're like, okay, we're gonna do this street show. And then you go to your first spot and you bring the stuff there. And it's just a nightmare of like, I just remembered that like we had all this gear and it was heavy and it was like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? We're not going to get any, like, it was just stupid. Like, why are we doing this? And the good thing is I wasn't alone. I was with Ethan. So we were just like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. You know, and then you do it and just no one wants to like stop or like nothing, like all the little interactions that you have planned with people, they're just like not working. And you just go through this painful first show and then you're finished and you do like your shitty hat line and you're embarrassed, and then some people come up to you and they give you money, but you feel like they give you money because they feel sorry
They're
for
sad.
you. So I think it was 12 euros, our very first street show.
Okay.
Which was very...
You can get a coffee.
Very...
Red U-Bahn.
I would say it brought us back to ground. It was really like, whew. Okay, people say you can get really rich doing street shows. We're like, not so sure about this. No, but it was great experience. Like, and then of course you do the second one, then you get, and that's why I said it was amazing, because the process of what we've learned was just like amazing. Nice. And at the end we would get like really, I mean, street show performers talk of solid hats, you know, like the amount that you get. So it always varies, but you have a solid hat on one point because your show gets solid and you know what to talk about and you know which jokes to do. So that was really nice. And yeah, then at the end of the summer, Ethan started to work with Cirque La Putica, which is to me one of the most creative European circus companies, because they are not super duper crazy skilled in terms of, like, they're not they're really good acrobats, but they're not like top notch. Right. They don't do tricks that you haven't seen before, but their shows really live from their aesthetics and from how they perform. And so I was really excited to see something like this in Europe and close to Germany, not like in France.
Yeah, they're in Prague, yeah.
They're in Prague, yeah. Or close to Berlin. I mean, I guess France is also close to Germany, but it's just on the other side. It's in the west, you know. Then they actually created this own theater, Jatka 78, which is huge, and they were about to open it. And Rostya Novak, the director of Cirque La Putica, he was like, "Hey, we're opening our theater, and it would be really great for us to have some international shows in the opening month. Do you guys want to do your street show?" And we were like, "This is amazing, but we have a street show. Like, you cannot program us in a theater, make people pay for a ticket, and then we do half an hour street show." And he was like, "Yeah, but don't you have some friends in Berlin that you can just bring? And then we just kind of pimp it and we just say like it's analog and friends." So we did that. We brought our friends, my girlfriend, Ina, the singer. Back then, Ethan's friend, Merlin Ettore, he's a drummer, his girlfriend. So Eike, a lot of Berlin friends we brought to Prague, and we just jammed for 1 week, and we created really guerrilla style, analog and friends version. And we were like, we're going to do this once and never again, you know. And then so we did it, and it was super nice and successful. And they were like, "Oh, can we do this again next year?" We're like, "Yeah, why not?" And so it kind of grew and developed, and like analog grew into more of a stage company again than a street show. And more members came and were part of this company now. And what we've just tried when we did this show, which is now called Finale, we tried to keep the street show flair in the show. Yeah. Even though we are in the theater. Yeah. We always tried to keep the root of why we founded the company in the show. Along the way, when we played more and more, Ethan and I, we kind of went separate paths in what we want to do with this. And so we split up as partners, but the show or the company has gone so much further than what it was with Ethan and me that I just felt like I really want to continue this. And Anke, the director from Chameleon, she said like, "I really want you guys to be in Chameleon for half a year."
That's crazy.
So we kind of
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did a recreation of what used to be just this guerrilla style show. Mm-hmm. And we recreated it. We wrote new songs. It's now all original songs for the show. And we performed it for half a year, in 2018. And now we're trying to go on tour. And next month we go to Adelaide.
Yeah.
Fringe. With the show Finale.
That's awesome. And you're not just a performer anymore. Now you're producing, now you're like directing. What's that life like?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I do a lot more emails than I wish.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But it's amazing. I mean, it's really, if I think back, what I already said about what inspired me for Traces or all these things, it's like, it really brings me back to what I did when I did Kid Circus. It's like, I'm with my friends, I'm deciding with my people that I want to be on stage with how we're gonna do it. And now it's not like, let's wear a unitard and be aliens, like it was when I was 7 years old. It's more like, hey, let's, rack up beer cases and do hoop diving through a stack of beer cases,
Yeah,
and
nice.
Let's write music with my friends so we can perform it also in our circus show. And for me, this circle is really closing again of like why I do circus. It's really with the people. And I really hope that with this show we can tour, because that would mean I can really tour with the people I like and I love. Because I think it makes this special connection that you just can feel as an audience member, that those people know each other for a long time, they love each other. And I think that's why Traces 1 was so unique, because they just knew each other like for so long, and
for sure.
Yeah.
And as like an audience member, you can start making that connection with them,
Oh, and what, to come back to the question, how it is to like,
be a producer?
Produce or like to be responsible for a company and stuff. I realized all these suggestions that I used to do in other companies or in creations of like, oh, we could do it like this, we could do it like this.
Yeah.
It was very easy because you can just suggest anything. But you're not the one who needs to do the decision and say like, okay, yes, we're going to do it like this. So I think especially last year, what I've learned most about Analog and Finale is that one very specific question has changed in my circus career. Before it used to be the question, Flo, how would you do it? How would you do it? And I would suggest some things, but I would never have to decide. Mm-hmm. And the question has changed now from how would you do it to Flo, how are we going to do it?
How the fuck can we do it? Yeah.
Yeah, like this is really, it's such a simple change, but it's like, and I'm like, all my friends are suggesting things. I also suggest things. And in the best situation, because that's how Analog works, is like we're all in the creative process, a collective. We're all like having our ideas. And in the best outcome, it's that we already agree anyway how we want to do it.
Yeah.
But when it's like not clear and we can't really make a decision as a group, then I kind of have the last word and I need to decide something. Mm-hmm. So that's when it comes to like, Flo, how are we going to do it?
Yeah. How do you filter that? Like, how do you make those decisions?
Through, sleepless nights. I would say it's not really, I can say the benefit of how it is to make a company with your friends, that like you're gonna be with your friends on tour, like that's the big benefit and it's nice. But when it comes down to moments like this, you're realizing, okay, you always want to make everyone happy, but it's just impossible. You cannot make everyone happy sometimes. And that is for me the most painful part about running this company, because sometimes you have to make a decision that you just know someone is not going to be happy with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And they are your friends.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
This is the tricky part. But I think overall everyone knows that I'm trying my best to really filter what is best for the company and for the overall picture. I think actually that's what gives me the strength to at the end really make a decision, is like to on one point blend out the ego a little bit and just go like, okay, I know I want to make everyone happy, but like what is the overall picture? What is the best for the show?
Right. It sounds like, I mean, like you've had so many years of being a performer on stage in so many different capacities to kind of have those instincts to make choices like that, you know? I'm wondering, do you think someone who has not been a performer their whole life could direct something like that?
I really don't see myself as the director of the show.
Okay.
I see myself as the captain of the company. I don't even see myself as a boss, or I have my crew and we all know where we want to sail, and you know, I need everyone to kind of pull on the strings to like get there where we want to sail. But I can sail there myself. That's why I really see this whole thing of like, hey, let's go there. You guys want to come with me? And this is really the energy of analog for me. Like, let's go there. Let's go there together. Let's make this. And not so much of like, we're gonna go there. Move. You know? Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know, for example, Bertan on stage, like the juggler, you can just tell like it's his show. It's his company. It's what he loves to do on stage.
Yeah. And when I talk to Bertan, like, he feels that way. I know he does.
Yeah, because sure. Like I said, I'm not the boss of this company. Like, everyone owns this company.
Yeah.
Everyone is part of this show and really the owner of this show, because I could never do something like this by myself, and especially like, they are so skilled, and each and every one in this show brought something to this show that makes this show so special. And I could have never asked something like this from them. That's them. And I don't know, that's maybe a very liberal way of looking at it, but that for me, like I said, it comes back to this kids circus idea. It's like, it's not about who owns it. It's not about who is responsible for it. It's about, is the show working at the end, and are we having fun on stage?
Yeah.
And I think this is working. And I think that's why the show is also working. I'm solving the things after I'm solving them, you know, because of course at the end of the day, there has to be someone who's organizing and doing things. But also I'm not doing this by myself. I have a tour manager or production manager.
Nice. Who
helps. And because like I said, it's so many emails and I can't focus on something longer than 20 minutes because I'm still a circus performer.
Totally.
So it really needs a lot of, different, in German we say like, you know, these wheels, like, in an engine, you have these little wheels with
gears.
Gears. Yeah. It needs all these gears that like...
In German, what is gear?
Zahnrad.
Zahnrad.
It's actually a funny word. It's a funny word. It's a tooth wheel.
Of course it is.
And then you would say it needs all those tooth wheels who bite into each other. Actually, that's kind of it makes sense, poetic. Right? Yeah, it's quite poetic. Yeah,
a little violent, but a little poetic. It's like everybody's.
But they bite into each other.
Yeah.
You know?
I have one last question that I always ask everyone at the end of the interviews, and it's, what advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Wow, that's a cool question. Wow. What advice would I give myself? Not to other people.
No, to yourself.
To myself.
And I ask it that way because I find if you say like, what advice would you give to other people? People get like, oh, you have to believe in yourself. And sometimes people say that as well because it's true. Yeah. But, I feel like you can get really specific when you're thinking about yourself, you know?
It's funny because I feel like I've done a lot of things good in the beginning of my career when it came down to decisions. So, and I think it had to do with facing fear. So I would give myself the advice again, even though I did this often. I just like faced my fears and smiled at them and ran towards them. I didn't know what's going to happen in Montreal and I just went there. I just did it. I remember this question from friends like, Flo, how do you do this? How do you just like go there? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing it. Actually, that would be, an advice that I would give myself, to just do it and face your fears. And I would give the advice to myself to be smart with your body. That's something I didn't do good in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I think if I would be as smart with my body in the beginning of the career as I am right now, I would be in still better shape. So that's a big advice to myself. Another advice to myself is to not be shy to try new things and look stupid when you do them. Uh-huh. Because I think we're surrounded by so many talented people and we all the time know how it's supposed to be when it's right, when it's done right. So it's sometimes hard to, when you want to try something new, tell yourself, yes, I know exactly how it's supposed to be, but I'm not doing it right now. Mm-hmm. And to not get frustrated at this, to just go further until you can actually do it. Because when I noticed along my career is that the better you get at stuff, you also, get this ability of like realizing that you do it bad. You know what I mean? I feel like when you start circus as a kid and they tell you to do a handstand, you don't have this reflection of saying, oh, but my handstand is not straight. A straight handstand is supposed to look like this. I'm so bad. My handstand is not straight. It's like, no, you're like, I'm doing a handstand.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Cool. It's cricket. Oh, it's a little bit cricket. I'm going to try to fix this, you know?
Yeah.
But you're not in like, while you do it, ashamed of yourself that your handstand is cricket. And I feel like this is something that happened to me in my professional career when I wanted to learn something new, something on pole or whatever. And then you just have your pole friends that are so much better than you. And while you do the movement, it feels off because you have this understanding for movement and it's so frustrating. You don't know how to do it right.
Totally.
But you know in the moment that you do it wrong. And to just not get frustrated at that and just to keep going until it feels right. Because I think that's the amazing part about doing circus. Once you realize, oh, I'm doing it right. It felt right, So that would be my big advice about learning new circus things is don't get, frustrated at, things that don't feel right when you learn them.
Nice.
Focus on them when they feel good.
Nice.
Just push through. Remember that it's like you do it because one day it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
Not be ashamed of that you can't do it yet, I think. I don't know. It's a bit silly, but
that makes total sense to me. Yeah. I've definitely had those moments all the time. Well, also because like as performers, you don't like your job is to look cool on stage.
Exactly.
And you take that into your life sometimes, you know?
Yeah, and I think the longer you are in the career, people have this picture of you that you funnily painted yourself, Flo is that guy, he can do pole, but I'm not that good in pole. I did traces. That is like, 6 guys who do one pole act with one girl, you know? So like everyone has 2 big tricks.
Yeah.
So I can do monkey swing and I can do a front flip on the pole, which are 2 pretty crazy tricks. And then I can do some basics. But like when people ask me like, hey, can you do a solo act in pole? Like, you know, and I think it's just like, it's okay. Just try to learn also the other tricks now in pole, and then you can do a solo act in pole. And yeah, don't be frustrated that like some stuff you have to still learn, even though people think you can already do them.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so.
It's like an ego thing.
Yeah, it's totally an ego thing. Like, because people think like, oh yeah, Flo, he's also a pole guy. And I don't necessarily see myself so much as a pole guy. I just done a few pole acts.
Sweet. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for this, Flo. It was really good to have you.
Oh, it was fun.
Thank
you.
That was my interview with Florian Zumkehr. Flo had some really cool things to say, and I think what was so enlightening about his interview is that he's been all around the world, and he's worked in so many different capacities as so many different kinds of performers. From just being in cabarets and doing a 5-minute act, to being in 90-minute shows, to doing street performing, and now producing his own work. And I think what's allowed him to do this is always asking himself this why. Why does he like to do circus? Apart from the movement and the training, what is his bigger reason? And I see this a lot. People who get started in circus, they have like a circus crush and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. But once you've been in it for a while, you really have to have something else driving you, some other reason to keep it up. It's a hard business. And Flo's why is his friends. It's the people he does it with that he enjoys so much. Other things I got out of this interview. Flo said that he saw traces, and that was a moment where he had another why. He had another, oh, this is why I do this. It was his inspiration. It was his reason to work so hard. And we should all find our own inspirations. If you want to go see some circus that inspires you, I highly recommend, if you're in Australia, going to the Adelaide Fringe Festival. It's an amazing festival. It happens every year from February to March. This year, it's the 15th to the 17th of March. So the 15th of February to the 17th of March. And Finale is playing there. It'll be playing the whole time except Mondays. It's going to be at the Peacock at Gluttony. And for sure, if you're in Australia, if you are Australian, and you have time to go see this wonderful show, check it out. It's really awesome. To find out more, you can go to the Facebook page for Analog. That's spelled just like it sounds, or find them on Instagram at Analog the Company. You can find Flo on Instagram at Flo Zumkehr, FLOZUMKEHR. For aerial training tips and inspiration, I'm on Instagram at @the_artist_athlete. You can find me on Facebook, The Artist Athlete, or on the web at theartistathlete.com. Thanks for tuning in this week, friends, fans, and enemies. My gear is a little weird this week. My microphone broke, but I'm on a tiny peninsula in Thailand, so I can't get another one right now, which is why I'm making this so short and why it's in mono. Thanks for listening, friends, fans, and enemies. Talk at you next week. The Artist Athlete podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hi, I'm Katie Betts, and I'm the director of Shared Culture Concepts, which is a full-service marketing company for circus and performing arts. You can visit our website at www.sharedcultureconcepts.com. On the website, you can find a copy of our ebook, which covers basics of marketing, specifically for circus educators, coaches, studio owners, and circus artists.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga, and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete Podcast, straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So, if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and swings and rope by night. I really like the Artist Athlete podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus. And that's why I'm Patreon.
Hello, all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.